This morning, when you woke up with that strange weight in your chest, when a sudden thought crossed your mind that someone near you wasn't truly wishing you well, that was not your imagination. I allowed you to feel that. I am God, and I am revealing what your spirit has been trying to warn you about. There is a woman watching your life closely, speaking your name where you cannot hear, carrying envy in her heart while pretending peace in front of you. The tension you felt, the unexpected fatigue, the quiet unease when you think about certain conversations, these were not random feelings, they were signals. I placed them inside you so you would not remain unaware. But listen carefully. You are not defenseless. There is a prayer that breaks what she has been trying to form against you. And if you ignore this moment, you may miss the protection I am placing before you right now. Don't scroll past this. Pray immediately. There are moments in life when a message reaches you not by accident, but by divine design. If you are hearing these words right now, pause for a moment and take a breath, because what you are about to hear may explain things that have been happening around you, things that did not make sense until now. Lately, you may have felt something strange in the atmosphere around you, a heaviness, a tension you couldn't explain. Perhaps doors that were opening suddenly began to close. Plans that once flowed easily started facing unusual resistance. Relationships began to feel different. Certain people started behaving in ways that felt off. You may have asked yourself, why is everything suddenly becoming so difficult? Why do I feel this strange pressure around me? Why does something feel wrong, even when everything seems normal on the surface? Listen carefully. Sometimes the battles in our lives are not only physical or emotional. Sometimes they are spiritual battles happening behind the scenes. Battles we cannot see with our eyes but can feel deep within our spirit. And there are times when God, in His mercy, sends a warning, not to create fear, but to bring awareness, protection, and victory. Today may be one of those moments, because there are situations where someone close to you, someone who smiles when they see you, someone who appears friendly, may secretly be carrying jealousy, resentment, or bitterness toward your life. And in some cases, that hidden negativity begins to work against you. Not always openly, not always loudly, but quietly, silently, behind the scenes. The truth is that not every battle comes from strangers. Sometimes the opposition rises from places we least expect. But here is something important you must understand. If God is revealing something to you, it is never to leave you vulnerable. It is to prepare you. It is to protect you. And most importantly, it is to remind you that no hidden attack is stronger than divine protection. So if you feel that this message is speaking directly to your heart, stay with me until the end. Because today, we are not only going to understand what may be happening around you, we are also going to speak a powerful prayer of protection that can shift the atmosphere around your life. And when that prayer is spoken with faith, something powerful happens. Hidden intentions lose their power. Dark plans lose their strength. And God's protection rises like a shield around you. But first, we need to understand something important. Because when God sends a warning, it is always for a reason. The warning you were meant to hear today. There is a reason why certain messages reach us at very specific moments in life. Sometimes we scroll past hundreds of things in a single day. Messages, videos, conversations, distractions. So many voices competing for our attention. Yet occasionally, one message stops us. Something inside whispers, "Pay attention to this." That feeling is not random. Throughout history, God has often used moments like these to alert His people about situations they could not see clearly on their own. Not to frighten them, but to prepare them. Because one of the greatest forms of protection God gives is discernment. The ability to sense when something is not right, even when the evidence is not obvious. Maybe recently you started noticing subtle signs. A sudden shift in someone's behavior. Coldness where there used to be warmth. Support that slowly turned into quiet criticism. Encouragement that became subtle competition. These changes are easy to ignore at first. After all, we don't like to believe that someone near us could secretly harbor negative feelings toward us. We prefer peace. We prefer harmony. We prefer to assume the best in people. And while kindness is beautiful, discernment is necessary. Because not everyone celebrates your growth. Not everyone feels comfortable with your progress. Not everyone rejoices when God begins opening doors in your life. For some people, your blessings become a mirror reflecting the frustrations in their own hearts. And if those frustrations are not healed, they can slowly turn into envy. Envy rarely announces itself loudly. It doesn't walk into the room and say, "I am jealous of you." Instead, it hides behind compliments, behind friendly conversations, behind smiles that seem genuine on the surface. But deep inside, something else may be growing. Resentment, comparison, bitterness. And sometimes, those emotions lead someone to quietly work against another person's peace. Not always through dramatic actions, but through subtle behaviors. Words spoken behind closed doors. Negative energy directed in silence. Attempts to undermine confidence or relationships. This is why spiritual awareness is so important. Because when you begin to sense something unusual, it does not mean you must respond with fear or suspicion toward everyone. Instead, it means you must draw closer to God. Because when God is your protector, hidden intentions lose their ability to harm you. And this is the key message you must remember today. If God is warning you, it means He is already protecting you. Warnings are not signs of defeat. They are signs of divine intervention. And the fact that you are hearing this message today may be evidence that God is already guiding you away from something that could have hurt you. But to fully understand what may be happening around you, we need to talk about something many people overlook. Because sometimes the most intense battles in life are not visible at all. They happen in the spiritual realm. And that is exactly what we will talk about next. If this message touched your heart today, I want to share something special with you. Over the years, many people have asked me for prayers they can say when they feel spiritually attacked, overwhelmed, or surrounded by negative energy. Because of that, I prepared something very simple but powerful. A small guide with 10 powerful prayers to defeat negative spiritual forces. I normally don't share this publicly, but today only I decided to release access for those who truly need it. Think of it as a spiritual tool you can return to whenever you feel heavy, anxious, or under spiritual pressure. If you feel this could help you, click the first pinned comment to rescue your copy. And if you want to go deeper and receive more prayers and spiritual support, you will also see the option there to become a member of the community. I pray this blesses you today. When God reveals hidden battles, there are battles in life that everyone can see. Financial struggles, health problems, conflicts in relationships. These challenges are visible, and because they are visible, people can easily understand them. But there are other battles, far more subtle. Battles that take place in silence. Battles that unfold behind smiles, behind casual conversations, behind moments that appear normal on the surface. These are the battles many people fail to recognize until much later. And that is why spiritual awareness is so important. Throughout history, people of faith have understood that not every struggle begins in the physical world. Sometimes the tension we feel around us is the reflection of spiritual pressure, building quietly behind the scenes. You may have experienced this without realizing it. A sudden feeling of uneasiness around someone you once trusted. A strange heaviness when certain individuals enter the room. An unexpected wave of discouragement that appears right when something good is about to happen in your life. Moments like these are easy to dismiss. We often tell ourselves, maybe I'm just imagining things. Maybe I'm being too sensitive. Maybe it's just stress. And sometimes that may be true. But other times that inner signal is something deeper. One of the ways God protects His people is by awakening their spiritual discernment. That quiet inner awareness that alerts you when something in your environment is not aligned with peace. Discernment does not accuse. It does not condemn. It simply alerts. It whispers to your heart that you should pay attention. Many people ignore this whisper. They push it aside because they don't want to believe that someone close to them might carry hidden negativity. But when God begins revealing hidden battles, it is never meant to isolate you or make you suspicious of everyone around you. Instead, it is meant to draw you closer to Him. Because when God reveals something, He is also preparing you to overcome it. Think about this for a moment. If someone secretly carries envy toward you, if someone quietly resents the blessings that are unfolding in your life, if someone allows bitterness to grow inside their heart, those emotions rarely remain contained. They begin to influence words, they influence actions, they influence attitudes, and sometimes they even influence the atmosphere around you. You may notice subtle patterns, conversations where your achievements are minimized, moments where your joy seems to make someone uncomfortable, situations where support turns into quiet criticism. These things may appear small at first, but over time they reveal deeper emotions that have been building beneath the surface. And this is why God sometimes sends warnings in unexpected ways. A message, a sermon, a moment of prayer, or even a video like this one. Not because He wants you to fear people, but because He wants you to walk with wisdom. Because the truth is this: when God reveals hidden battles, He is not exposing them to scare you. He is exposing them so they lose their power over you. Dark intentions lose their strength when they are brought into the light. Negative plans weaken when they are confronted with prayer. And hidden opposition cannot succeed when God's protection surrounds your life. But before we move forward, there is something important you must understand. Because the presence of hidden opposition does not always appear in obvious ways. In fact, many times it appears behind something that looks completely harmless. Sometimes it hides behind a smile, and that is exactly what we need to talk about next. The signs someone is quietly working against you. One of the most difficult things to accept in life is the idea that someone near us may not truly wish us well. Most people want to believe that those around them celebrate their happiness, support their progress, and rejoice when good things begin to happen. And many people truly do. But not everyone. Sometimes the greatest opposition does not come from strangers. It comes from people who have watched your life closely. People who have seen your struggles. People who have seen your prayers. People who have seen the doors that God is beginning to open for you. And when someone carries unresolved pain or insecurity in their heart, your progress can become difficult for them to accept. This is where subtle signs may begin to appear. Not dramatic signs, not obvious hostility, but quiet signals that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. For example, you may notice that someone becomes uncomfortable when you share good news. Instead of genuine joy, their response may feel forced. Their smile may appear polite, but something in their tone feels distant. At first, you may ignore it. You may tell yourself that they were simply tired or distracted. But over time, the pattern begins to repeat. Another sign can appear in the form of subtle discouragement. Whenever you speak about a dream, a goal, or something positive happening in your life, this person may respond with quiet doubt. They may say things like, "Are you sure that's a good idea? That sounds risky. I wouldn't get your hopes up." On the surface, these words may sound like concern, but repeated often enough, they slowly begin to plant seeds of doubt. Another sign appears in the form of quiet comparison. Someone who is struggling with jealousy may constantly compare your life to theirs or to others. Instead of celebrating your progress, they shift the conversation toward what they believe is unfair. They may say things like, "Things always seem to work out for you. Some people just get lucky. I wish I had the same opportunities." Again, these comments may seem harmless at first, but underneath them often lies a deeper feeling of resentment. And when resentment is left unchecked, it can grow. Not always into open conflict, but into silent opposition. Another sign is a strange shift in energy whenever you are around this person. You may feel peaceful and confident before meeting them, but afterward, you feel drained, heavy, confused, as if something about the interaction quietly disturbed your spirit. Many people ignore this feeling. They brush it aside. But spiritual awareness often begins with recognizing how certain environments and certain individuals affect your inner peace. Because when someone carries hidden negativity toward you, it does not always appear in loud actions. Sometimes it appears as an atmosphere that quietly pulls your energy down. And here is something very important to remember. Recognizing these signs does not mean you must become suspicious of everyone. It does not mean you must confront or accuse anyone. God does not reveal things so that we become bitter or hostile. He reveals them so that we become wise and spiritually protected. Instead of reacting with anger, the proper response is something much more powerful: prayer, discernment, and quiet distance when necessary. Because when you place your situation in God's hands, something remarkable begins to happen. Hidden intentions begin to lose their influence. Negative plans begin to unravel. And the peace of God begins to guard your heart and your path. But to truly understand why situations like this happen, we must talk about something that has existed in human hearts for generations. A force that has quietly damaged friendships, families, and communities for centuries. That force is envy. And envy has a way of hiding itself behind something very convincing: a smile. That is what we will explore next. Why envy often hides behind a smile. Envy is one of the quietest emotions a person can carry. Unlike anger, it rarely announces itself openly. Unlike hatred, it does not always reveal its true face. Instead, envy hides. It hides behind polite words. It hides behind friendly conversations. And very often, it hides behind a smile. This is why it can be so difficult to recognize. Someone may stand beside you, laugh with you, and speak kindly to you, while deep inside their heart they are wrestling with feelings they do not fully understand. Feelings of comparison, feelings of inadequacy, feelings that grow when they look at your life and begin to measure their own against it. Comparison is the soil where envy grows. When someone constantly measures their life against another person's blessings, something dangerous begins to form inside their heart. Instead of celebrating what God has done for someone else, they begin asking painful questions within themselves. Why did that happen for them and not for me? Why are doors opening for them while mine remain closed? Why does it seem like their prayers are being answered? If these thoughts are not healed, they slowly turn into frustration. Frustration turns into resentment, and resentment can quietly transform into envy. But here is something important to understand. Many people who carry envy do not even realize what is happening inside their hearts. They may still believe they are being supportive. They may still believe they care about you. But the emotions growing beneath the surface begin to change their behavior in subtle ways. A compliment may start to sound slightly forced. Encouragement may slowly turn into criticism. Support may quietly become distance. And while these changes may seem small, they are often the early signs of deeper emotions forming inside someone's heart. History has shown us again and again that envy can damage relationships that once seemed strong. Friends, family members, co-workers, even people who once prayed together. Because envy is not really about the other person. It is about the pain someone feels when they look at their own life and believe something is missing. But instead of seeking healing, they allow that pain to turn outward. And when that happens, the person they once celebrated may slowly become the person they silently resent. This is why spiritual wisdom is so important. Because when you begin to recognize these patterns, your goal should never be revenge or confrontation. Your goal should be protection of your peace. The truth is that envy loses its power when it is met with maturity, distance, and prayer. You do not need to expose every hidden emotion someone carries. You do not need to argue or defend yourself against silent resentment. Instead, you protect your heart. You guard your peace. And you allow God to handle what you cannot see. Because God sees every hidden motive, every whispered word, every silent intention. Nothing escapes his awareness. And when someone carries harmful intentions towards you, those intentions cannot overpower the protection that comes from faith. But there is another aspect of this situation that many people overlook. Because negative emotions do not only affect relationships, they can also affect the spiritual atmosphere around a person's life. And that is something we must talk about next. Because understanding this will help you realize why prayer is so powerful in moments like these. The spiritual impact of negative intentions. There is something many people underestimate in life. They believe that words, thoughts, and intentions disappear the moment they are spoken or felt. But spiritually speaking, that is not always the case. Human beings carry energy in their emotions, their words, and even in their silent thoughts. When those emotions are positive, love, kindness, encouragement, they bring peace and strength into the lives of others. But when those emotions become negative, they can create tension in ways that are not always easy to explain. You may have experienced this before without realizing it. Have you ever walked into a room and suddenly felt uncomfortable, even though nothing obvious had happened? Have you ever spoken to someone and left the conversation feeling strangely drained, as if something had quietly taken your energy? Have you ever noticed that certain people seem to bring heaviness into your life whenever they appear? Moments like these are more common than many people realize. Because emotions do not simply stay inside a person's heart. They often shape the atmosphere around them. When someone carries bitterness, resentment, or jealousy for a long time, those emotions begin influencing their actions, their conversations, and the way they interact with others. Sometimes it appears through criticism, sometimes through subtle negativity, sometimes through discouragement, and sometimes through quiet attempts to undermine the confidence or peace of another person. But here is something extremely important to understand. Negative intentions do not automatically control your life. They only gain influence when we allow fear, anger, or confusion to dominate our response. This is why spiritual wisdom teaches something powerful. The most effective response to hidden negativity is not confrontation. It is spiritual protection, prayer, faith, and trust that God sees everything that remains hidden from human eyes. There is a deep spiritual truth many people forget. God is not blind to hidden motives. He sees the quiet jealousy that someone tries to hide. He hears the words spoken behind closed doors. He knows every intention that forms inside the human heart. Nothing escapes his awareness. And because of that, no hidden negativity is stronger than divine protection. Many people make the mistake of trying to fight spiritual battles with human reactions. They argue, they accuse, they seek revenge. But those responses often create even more tension. The wiser path is something much calmer and much stronger. You step back, you protect your peace, and you place the situation in God's hands. Because when you pray, something powerful begins to happen. Prayer shifts the atmosphere. Prayer strengthens your spirit. Prayer surrounds your life with protection that cannot be seen with human eyes. This does not mean that every negative intention immediately disappears, but it does mean that its power over you begins to weaken. Think about it like a shield. When you walk through life without spiritual protection, you are exposed to every word, every opinion, every hidden emotion around you. But when your life is rooted in prayer, it becomes much harder for negativity to reach your heart. God becomes your defender, your guide, your protector. And many times, He will quietly remove people from your path who are not meant to walk with you into the next chapter of your life. Sometimes that removal happens suddenly. Other times, it happens slowly. Conversations become less frequent. Paths begin to separate. Opportunities lead you in different directions. And before you even realize it, God has already distanced you from situations that could have harmed your peace. This is why warnings like the one you are hearing today are not meant to create fear. They are meant to awaken awareness. Because once you become spiritually aware, you begin to live differently. You become more careful about the environments you remain in. You become more attentive to the voices you allow to influence your mind. And most importantly, you become more committed to protecting your spirit through prayer. But there is another question that may be on your mind right now. Why would God allow you to become aware of this situation at this exact moment? Why now? Why today? That is exactly what we need to talk about next. Because sometimes the timing of a warning carries a message of its own. Before we continue, I want to invite you to do something simple. If this message resonates with you, write in the comments, "God is my protection." Your comment may encourage someone else who is reading and feeling the same struggle. And if you feel that you have been under spiritual pressure lately, I also want to share something that may help you. In the first pinned comment, I left access to a small spiritual guide called 10 Powerful Prayers to Defeat Negative Spiritual Forces. Many people have told me they use these prayers when they feel overwhelmed, spiritually attacked, or surrounded by negative energy. I made it available only today for those who truly feel they need it. If you want to receive it, simply click the first pinned comment to rescue your copy. And if you want to go even deeper in prayer and spiritual protection, you will also see the option there to become a member of this community, where we share more prayers and messages of faith. You are not alone in this journey. And sometimes a simple prayer can change the entire atmosphere around your life. Why God is showing this to you now. There are moments in life when a message arrives at exactly the right time. Not earlier, not later, but precisely when your heart is ready to understand it. Many people pass through years of their lives without recognizing the deeper spiritual movements happening around them. They see situations only through what is visible, conversations, events, actions. But God often works through timing. And sometimes, when a warning reaches you, the first question that comes to mind is simple. Why now? Why would God allow you to become aware of hidden tension, hidden opposition, or hidden negativity at this moment in your life? The answer is often connected to where you are going. Because when God is preparing to move you into a new season of growth, purpose, or blessing, the environment around you begins to shift. Opportunities appear. Your thinking begins to change. You feel a stronger desire for peace, for clarity, for spiritual connection. You may even feel that God is guiding you toward a different path than the one you were walking before. And whenever someone begins to move toward a higher level of purpose, not everyone around them will be comfortable with that change. Growth often reveals things that were previously hidden. It reveals who truly celebrates your progress. It reveals who quietly distances themselves. And sometimes it reveals who may feel threatened by the direction your life is taking. But this does not mean those people are evil. Many times they are simply struggling with their own fears, disappointments, or unresolved emotions. However, when those emotions turn into resentment or envy, they can begin influencing the way those individuals behave toward you. And this is where God's timing becomes important. He does not reveal these situations to create division. He reveals them to prepare you. Because moving into a new chapter of life requires wisdom about the company you keep. Think about the seasons of life like different environments. The people who walked with you during one season may not be the same people who can walk with you into the next one. Not because you are better than them, not because you have rejected them, but simply because your paths are beginning to move in different directions. And when God begins to open new doors for your life, He also begins to adjust the relationships around you. Sometimes He strengthens certain connections, sometimes He gently distances others, and sometimes He gives you awareness so you can recognize when someone's presence is no longer healthy for your peace. This awareness is not meant to make you angry. It is meant to make you wise. Because wisdom allows you to respond with calmness instead of reaction. Instead of confronting someone with accusations, you simply adjust your boundaries. Instead of sharing every detail of your plans, you become more selective about what you reveal. Instead of seeking approval from everyone, you begin to rely more deeply on God's guidance. This shift is powerful, because the moment you stop trying to convince everyone around you to support your journey, you free yourself to walk the path God has placed before you. And here is something comforting you must remember. Even if someone is quietly working against you, they cannot stop what God has already decided to do in your life. Human opposition cannot cancel divine purpose. Hidden negativity cannot block a door that God has chosen to open. The only thing that can truly disturb your peace is allowing fear or resentment to enter your heart. And that is why spiritual awareness must always be accompanied by spiritual protection. Awareness helps you recognize what is happening. Prayer protects your heart while God handles what you cannot see. In fact, many times God reveals hidden tensions so that you will increase your prayer life. Because when you pray with intention, something remarkable happens. Your mind becomes clearer, your spirit becomes stronger, and situations that once felt confusing begin to make sense. You begin to see patterns that were once invisible. You begin to understand why certain conversations made you uncomfortable. You begin to recognize why certain relationships felt draining. It is not about blaming anyone. It is about protecting the peace that God is building in your life. Because your peace is valuable. Your purpose is valuable. And the path ahead of you deserves to be walked with clarity, not confusion. But there is another powerful gift that God gives to those who stay close to Him. A gift that helps you navigate situations like these with calm confidence. That gift is discernment. And understanding this gift can completely change the way you walk through life. That is what we will explore in the next chapter. Before we continue, I want to ask you something important. If you believe that God has been protecting you even in situations you did not fully understand, write this in the comments. God is guiding my path. Your comment may encourage someone else who feels lost or confused right now. And if lately you have felt spiritual pressure, heaviness, or negativity around you, I want to remind you of something that may help. In the first pinned comment, I shared access to a small guide called 10 Powerful Prayers to Defeat Negative Spiritual Forces. Many people use these prayers when they feel spiritually attacked, overwhelmed, or surrounded by negative energy. I made it available only today for those who truly need spiritual support. If you feel this could help you, simply click the first pinned comment to rescue your copy. You will also see the option there to become a member of this community, where we share deeper prayers, spiritual encouragement, and support for those who want to grow stronger in faith. Sometimes one prayer can shift the entire atmosphere around your life. The power of discernment. God gives His children. There is a gift that many people pray for without even realizing it. It is not wealth. It is not influence. It is not recognition. It is something far more valuable. Discernment. Discernment is the quiet ability to sense what cannot immediately be seen. It is that inner awareness that helps you recognize when something is right and when something is not. Many people call it intuition. Others describe it as a feeling deep in the heart. But spiritually speaking, discernment is something much deeper than a simple feeling. It is a form of guidance that God gives to those who stay close to Him. You may have experienced this before. A moment when something inside you whispered to be careful. A moment when you felt uncomfortable trusting someone, even though everyone else seemed perfectly at ease. A moment when you felt drawn toward a decision that later proved to be exactly the right path. These moments are not random. They are often the quiet ways God guides His people. Discernment does not shout. It does not force. It simply whispers. And because it whispers, many people ignore it. They dismiss it. They convince themselves they are imagining things. But over time, those who learn to listen to this quiet guidance discover something powerful. Discernment protects them. It helps them recognize situations that may not be healthy for their peace. It helps them notice patterns in people's behavior. It helps them avoid environments that drain their energy. And most importantly, it helps them remain calm even when they realize that someone may not truly wish them well. Because when you have discernment, you do not react with fear. You respond with wisdom. Imagine walking through a dark path with a small light in your hand. The light does not remove every obstacle instantly, but it helps you see where to step. Discernment works the same way. It does not reveal every detail of a situation all at once, but it gives you enough clarity to move carefully and wisely. For example, when discernment begins to grow in your life, you may start noticing things you overlooked before. You may notice how certain people react when you share good news. You may notice how certain conversations consistently leave you feeling uneasy. You may notice that some individuals seem supportive in public, but critical in private. These observations are not meant to make you suspicious. They are meant to help you navigate relationships with maturity. Discernment teaches you something extremely valuable. Not everyone deserves access to every part of your life. Some people can celebrate your success. Others can only handle small portions of your story. And some individuals must remain at a distance for the sake of your peace. This does not mean you stop being kind. Kindness remains one of the most powerful strengths a person can have. But kindness does not require complete openness with everyone. It is possible to be loving while still protecting your boundaries. In fact, this balance is often one of the greatest signs of spiritual maturity. You treat others with respect. You speak with compassion, but you also guard the parts of your life that are sacred. Your dreams, your prayers, your plans, your spiritual journey. Because when something is precious, it deserves protection. Discernment helps you recognize who can walk closely beside you and who should remain a little further away. And when God strengthens this gift in your life, something beautiful begins to happen. Your life becomes calmer. You stop forcing relationships that feel unnatural. You stop explaining your decisions to people who do not understand your path. You stop chasing approval. Instead, you begin walking with quiet confidence. You know that God is guiding your steps. You trust the wisdom He is giving you, and you allow His peace to lead you forward. This does not mean challenges disappear, but it does mean you begin to navigate those challenges with clarity instead of confusion. And when someone quietly carries negative intentions toward you, discernment helps you recognize the situation early, before it has the chance to disturb your peace. Instead of reacting emotionally, you simply adjust your distance. You share less, you observe more, you pray more deeply, and you allow God to handle the rest. Because the truth is this: you do not need to expose every hidden intention in order to be protected from it. God can protect you even from things you never fully understand. But there is another important step in handling situations like this. Because once you recognize that someone may be working against you, the next question becomes very important. How should you respond? Should you confront them? Should you argue? Should you defend yourself? The answer may surprise you, because the most powerful response is often the calmest one. And that is exactly what we will explore next. Before we continue, I want to invite you to participate. If you believe God has been giving you discernment in your life, write this in the comments. God gives me wisdom. Sometimes your comment can encourage someone else who is asking God for the same guidance. And if you have been feeling spiritual pressure lately, strange tension, heaviness, or negativity around your life, I want to remind you of something that may help you. In the first pinned comment, I left access to a guide called 10 Powerful Prayers to Defeat Negative Spiritual Forces. These prayers were created for moments when people feel spiritually overwhelmed or surrounded by negativity. I decided to make it available only today for those who truly need spiritual support. If you feel it could help you, simply click the first pinned comment to rescue your copy. And if you want to grow even deeper in faith and protection, you will also see the option there to become a member of this community, where we share more prayers, encouragement, and spiritual guidance. Remember, sometimes one prayer can change the entire atmosphere around your life. Do not respond with anger. Respond with wisdom. One of the greatest traps in spiritual battles is not the attack itself. It is the reaction. When someone realizes that another person may be working against them, even quietly, the first emotion that often appears is anger. It is a natural reaction. You may feel hurt. You may feel betrayed. You may feel confused, wondering how someone who once seemed supportive could secretly carry negative intentions. These emotions are human. But here is a powerful truth that many people only learn after painful experiences. Not every battle should be fought with confrontation. Sometimes the strongest response is not to react at all. Think about it for a moment. When someone is carrying envy, resentment, or bitterness toward you, they are already fighting an internal battle. Their heart is already unsettled. Their peace is already disturbed. And if you respond with anger, accusation, or hostility, something unfortunate happens. You enter the same emotional storm they are living in. Suddenly, the situation becomes louder, more chaotic, more painful for everyone involved. But wisdom invites you to choose a different path. A calmer path, a stronger path. Instead of reacting emotionally, you step back and observe. You allow your peace to remain intact. You refuse to let someone else's negativity determine your behavior. This is not weakness, it is maturity. Because responding with wisdom requires far more strength than reacting with anger. When you respond with wisdom, you understand something very important. Not every person who works against you deserves a reaction from you. Some people expect confrontation. They expect arguments. They expect drama. But when you refuse to give them that response, their influence over your emotions disappears. Imagine someone trying to push a door open, expecting resistance. They lean forward with all their strength, but suddenly the door opens easily, and they stumble forward because the resistance they expected was never there. This is what happens when you respond with calm wisdom instead of anger. The tension they expected never arrives. The conflict they anticipated never begins, and the situation loses much of its power. Instead of arguing, you become quieter. Instead of defending yourself constantly, you focus on your purpose. Instead of explaining your decisions to everyone, you move forward with confidence. This type of response often confuses people who expected a different reaction, but it also protects your peace, because anger has a way of spreading like fire. Once it begins, it often pulls more people into the conflict. Misunderstandings grow, relationships fracture, and what began as a hidden tension becomes a loud battle that damages everyone involved. Wisdom prevents this. Wisdom allows you to step away from situations that do not deserve your energy. It allows you to focus on the things that truly matter: your faith, your peace, your purpose. And when you begin living with this mindset, something interesting happens. People who thrive on conflict slowly lose interest in disturbing your life. They realize they cannot control your reactions. They realize their negativity cannot pull you into emotional chaos. And eventually, their influence fades. But there is another powerful element in responding with wisdom: prayer. Because prayer is not only about asking God for help. Prayer is also about releasing situations into His hands. When you pray about someone who may be working against you, you are doing something remarkable. You are removing the burden from your own shoulders. You are trusting that God sees the entire picture. You are allowing Him to handle the parts of the situation that you cannot control. And often, God resolves those situations in ways that are far more peaceful than any human confrontation could achieve. Sometimes He changes the other person's heart. Sometimes He creates distance between you and that person. Sometimes He reveals the truth naturally over time. But whatever the outcome may be, prayer ensures that your heart remains free from bitterness. And that freedom is priceless. Because the moment you allow resentment to grow inside your own heart, the situation has already taken more from you than it deserved. Your peace is too valuable to surrender to someone else's negativity. Your joy is too precious to be replaced by anger. And your purpose is too important to be distracted by unnecessary conflict. That is why wisdom always chooses calm over chaos, peace over arguments, prayer over revenge. And when you live this way, something powerful begins to unfold. God begins fighting battles on your behalf. Situations begin resolving themselves in unexpected ways, and doors continue opening in your life despite any hidden opposition. But there is something even more powerful than wisdom alone. Something that strengthens your protection and transforms the atmosphere around your life. That power is prayer. And in the next chapter, we will talk about how prayer creates a spiritual shield that no hidden negativity can overcome. If you believe that responding with wisdom is stronger than responding with anger, write this in the comments. I choose peace. Your words might encourage someone who is struggling with conflict right now. And if lately you have felt surrounded by spiritual tension or negativity, I want to share something that many people have found helpful. In the first pinned comment, I left access to a small guide called 10 Powerful Prayers to Defeat Negative Spiritual Forces. These prayers were created for moments when people feel spiritually attacked, emotionally overwhelmed, or surrounded by negative energy. I decided to make it available only today for those who truly feel they need spiritual protection. If you want to receive it, simply click the first pinned comment to rescue your copy. You will also find the option there to become a member of this community, where we share deeper prayers, encouragement, and spiritual guidance for those who want to grow stronger in faith. Sometimes the right prayer at the right moment can completely change the atmosphere around your life. The protection that prayer releases. There is a moment in every spiritual battle when a person realizes something important. They cannot fight everything alone. Human strength has limits. Human understanding has limits, and human control over situations is far smaller than we often believe. But prayer changes that reality. Prayer is not simply speaking words into the air. It is an act of connection, a moment when a person steps out of the noise of the world and turns their attention toward God. And when that connection happens with sincerity, something powerful begins to take place. Prayer releases protection, not always in dramatic ways that everyone can see. Often it begins quietly. A sense of peace appears where anxiety once lived. Clarity replaces confusion. Strength replaces fear. These changes may seem small, but they are the first signs that something deeper is happening. Because prayer does something extraordinary. It shifts the spiritual atmosphere around your life. Imagine your life as a house. Every day, different influences try to enter that house. Conversations, opinions, emotions, and the intentions of other people all attempt to cross the door of your mind and heart. Some of these influences are positive, others are not. When someone carries resentment or negative intentions toward you, it is like someone standing outside your house trying to throw stones at the windows. Sometimes those stones are words, sometimes they are attitudes, sometimes they are silent negativity. But prayer builds a shield around that house. A shield that prevents those stones from breaking through. This shield does not always remove the existence of negativity in the world, but it prevents that negativity from controlling your spirit. When you pray regularly, your mind becomes calmer, your emotions become more stable, and your ability to respond with wisdom grows stronger. You begin to notice that situations which once disturbed you deeply no longer carry the same power. Someone's criticism does not shake your confidence the way it once did. Someone's jealousy does not disturb your peace the way it once might have. You begin to walk through life with a quiet sense of protection. And this protection does not come from ignoring reality. It comes from trusting that God is watching over you. Many people misunderstand prayer. They think prayer is only for moments of crisis. They pray when something goes wrong. They pray when fear appears. They pray when they feel overwhelmed. But the people who experience the deepest peace understand something different. Prayer is not only a response to problems. It is a daily source of strength. Just like the body needs food every day, the spirit needs connection every day. When prayer becomes a regular part of your life, you begin to notice something remarkable. Situations that once confused you begin to reveal their true nature. You become more sensitive to what brings peace into your life and what disrupts it. You become more aware of which relationships strengthen your spirit and which ones drain it. This awareness is not about judging people. It is about protecting your heart. Because your heart is where your peace lives. Your heart is where your faith grows. And your heart is where God often speaks most clearly. When your heart is calm, you can hear that guidance more easily. But when your heart is filled with anxiety, anger, or confusion, it becomes much harder to recognize that quiet direction. Prayer clears that noise. It quiets the chaos inside your mind. It reminds you that you are not facing life alone. And this realization changes everything. Because once you truly believe that God is protecting you, fear begins to lose its influence. You no longer worry constantly about what others may be saying behind your back. You no longer feel the need to defend yourself against every criticism. You no longer feel pressured to prove your worth to people who doubt you. Instead, you focus on walking forward with faith. You trust that God knows the truth about your intentions. You trust that He sees every hidden situation. And you trust that He can protect your life in ways you may never fully understand. This is the quiet power of prayer. It does not always change other people immediately, but it always begins by strengthening you. And once you become stronger spiritually, the influence of negativity begins to fade, because negativity thrives on fear and confusion. But faith replaces both of those things with peace and clarity. This is why people who pray regularly often appear calm even during difficult situations. It is not because their lives are perfect. It is because they have learned where to place their trust. And when you reach that point, something incredible begins to happen. Even if someone is quietly working against you, their efforts lose their power, because the protection surrounding your life becomes stronger than any hidden intention directed toward you. But there is another important truth we must talk about, because prayer does more than protect. Prayer also has the power to break negative influences that may already be surrounding a person's life. And that is exactly what we will explore next. Before we continue, I want to invite you to participate. If you believe prayer has protected you in difficult moments of your life, write this in the comments. Prayer is my shield. Your comment may strengthen someone else who is searching for hope today. And if lately you have felt spiritual heaviness or negativity around your life, I want to remind you of something that may help you. In the first pinned comment, I shared a small guide called 10 Powerful Prayers to Defeat Negative Spiritual Forces. These prayers were created for moments when people feel spiritually attacked, emotionally overwhelmed, or surrounded by negative energy. I decided to make it available only today for those who truly need it. If you want to receive it, simply click the first pinned comment to rescue your copy. You will also find the option there to become a member of this community, where we share deeper prayers, spiritual encouragement, and guidance for those who want to grow stronger in faith. Sometimes the right prayer at the right moment can change everything, breaking every hidden attack through faith. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey when a person realizes something powerful. Faith is not passive. Faith is active. Many people think faith is simply believing that things will somehow work out in the end. They imagine it as a quiet hope, something gentle and distant. But true faith is much stronger than that. Faith is the decision to stand firm even when you cannot see the full picture. Faith is the courage to trust God even when circumstances around you seem confusing. And faith becomes especially powerful when you are facing hidden opposition. Because hidden opposition thrives on uncertainty. When someone is quietly working against you, it can create a strange emotional atmosphere. You may feel tension without understanding why. You may notice subtle resistance in places where things once felt easy. Sometimes it feels as if something invisible is pushing against your progress. But faith breaks that pressure. Faith reminds you that what is happening behind the scenes does not control the outcome of your life. Only God does. There is an important truth many people forget during difficult moments. Other people may influence situations, but they do not control your destiny. No human plan can cancel what God has prepared for you. No hidden intention can erase the path that God has already placed before your life. And once you truly believe this, something remarkable begins to happen. Fear begins to lose its grip. You stop worrying about every whisper, every rumor, every possible hidden motive around you. Instead, you focus on strengthening the one thing that truly protects your life, your connection with God. Because faith changes the way you walk through the world. Instead of constantly looking over your shoulder, you move forward with confidence. Instead of allowing suspicion to dominate your mind, you choose trust. Instead of focusing on who may be working against you, you focus on the one who is working for you. And that shift is incredibly powerful. Think about it like sunlight entering a dark room. Darkness cannot remain where light is present. In the same way, hidden negativity loses its influence when faith fills your life. The moment you stop giving your attention to fear, the situation begins to lose much of its emotional weight. This does not mean you ignore reality. It simply means you refuse to let negativity control your heart. You remain aware, you remain wise, but you also remain peaceful. And that peace becomes one of the greatest protections you can have. Because people who carry jealousy or resentment often expect something from you. They expect reaction. They expect frustration. They expect emotional turmoil. But when you continue walking in peace, their expectations collapse. Their attempts to disturb your spirit fail. And over time, their influence fades. Faith also does something else that many people overlook. It strengthens your resilience. When you are rooted in faith, obstacles no longer feel like permanent barriers. They become temporary challenges. You understand that every difficult situation carries a lesson, a moment of growth, or a hidden redirection that God may be using to guide your path. And sometimes the very opposition that once worried you becomes the reason you grow stronger. It pushes you closer to prayer. It deepens your trust in God. It sharpens your discernment. And before you realize it, you have become more spiritually grounded than ever before. This is one of the most beautiful transformations faith creates. What was meant to disturb you becomes something that strengthens you. What was meant to confuse you becomes something that clarifies your path. And what was meant to discourage you becomes something that deepens your connection with God. But there is one more step in this journey. Because faith prepares your heart, prayer activates your protection. And sometimes there is a moment when you must speak words that declare your trust in God out loud. Words that release peace into your life. Words that ask for protection. Words that invite God's presence into every corner of your situation. That moment is powerful, because spoken prayer has a way of changing the atmosphere around you. And in the next chapter, we will enter that moment together. We will speak a prayer that many people use when they feel surrounded by negativity or hidden opposition. A prayer for protection, a prayer for peace, a prayer that reminds you that no hidden attack is stronger than the power of God's presence in your life. If you believe that faith is stronger than any hidden attack, write this in the comments. My faith is stronger than fear. Your words might encourage someone else who is struggling today. And if lately you have felt spiritual pressure or negativity around your life, I want to remind you of something that may help you strengthen your prayers. In the first pinned comment, I shared a guide called 10 Powerful Prayers to Defeat Negative Spiritual Forces. Many people keep these prayers nearby and read them when they feel overwhelmed, spiritually attacked, or surrounded by negative energy. I made it available only today for those who truly feel they need spiritual protection. If you want to receive it, simply click the first pinned comment to rescue your copy. And if you want to grow even deeper in faith and spiritual strength, you will also see the option there to become a member of this community, where we share additional prayers, encouragement, and spiritual guidance. Sometimes the right prayer at the right moment can change everything. The prayer you must say right now. There are moments in life when words carry a special power. Not because the words themselves are magical, but because they come from a heart that is seeking protection, peace, and guidance. Prayer is one of the most powerful ways a person can step into that moment. When you pray, you are not speaking into emptiness. You are turning your attention toward the one who sees every hidden situation, every silent struggle, and every intention that no one else can see. And right now, if you feel that something around you has been disturbing your peace, if you sense tension, hidden negativity, or spiritual pressure, this is the moment to bring that burden before God. You do not need complicated words. You do not need perfect sentences. You only need sincerity. So wherever you are right now, take a slow breath. Let your mind become quiet for a moment. And if you can, repeat this prayer with faith in your heart. Prayer for protection and peace. Heavenly Father, today, I come before you with humility and trust. You see every part of my life. You know the situations I understand, and you also know the things that remain hidden from my eyes. If there is anyone carrying negative intentions toward me, I place that situation in your hands. I refuse to live in fear. I refuse to allow resentment to grow in my heart. Instead, I ask you to surround my life with your protection. Guard my mind from anxiety. Guard my heart from bitterness. Guard my path from hidden harm. If someone is working against me, let their plans lose their power. If negativity has been spoken about me, let your truth rise above it. Fill my life with peace that no outside influence can disturb. Strengthen my spirit so that I respond to every situation with wisdom and calm. Help me walk forward without fear, trusting that you are guiding every step of my journey. Remove any presence in my life that does not belong in the future you are preparing for me, and replace it with people who bring encouragement, kindness, and truth. Today, I choose faith instead of fear. I choose peace instead of anger. And I trust that your protection is greater than anything working against me. Thank you for watching over my life. Thank you for guarding my path. And thank you for giving me strength even in moments I do not fully understand. Amen. God is turning this attack into your victory. There is something remarkable about the way God works in our lives. Many times, what first appears as an obstacle becomes the very thing that prepares us for something greater. Throughout life, people often assume that opposition means something is going wrong. They see resistance and immediately think the path must be closing. But spiritually, the opposite can sometimes be true. Very often, resistance appears precisely when something important is about to happen in your life. When a person begins to grow spiritually, when their faith deepens, when their life begins moving toward a new season of purpose, the environment around them often begins to change. Not everyone is comfortable with change. Not everyone is ready to walk the same path. And sometimes, those differences create tension. But here's the truth you must hold firmly in your heart. What others intend for harm does not have the final word over your life. God does. There have been countless moments in history when situations that seemed negative at first eventually became the very reason someone stepped into their purpose. A closed door redirected them to a better opportunity. A difficult relationship taught them wisdom and boundaries. A moment of hidden opposition strengthened their faith. And when they looked back later, they realized something surprising. The very things that once worried them were actually preparing them for a stronger future. This may be happening in your life right now. If you have recently felt tension, confusion, or the sense that someone around you may not truly wish you well, it does not mean your life is falling apart. Sometimes it means God is revealing what needs to be seen before you step into your next chapter. Because clarity is protection. Awareness is protection. And the peace that comes from trusting God is one of the greatest protections a person can have. When you walk with that peace, something powerful begins to happen. You stop living in fear of what others may think. You stop worrying about every hidden conversation that might be happening somewhere else. You stop trying to control things that were never yours to control in the first place. Instead, you focus on something far more important: walking forward, growing in faith, protecting your peace, and trusting that God is guiding your life in ways you may not fully understand yet. And when you live with that mindset, hidden opposition loses its power. Because the truth is simple. Someone may try to work against you, but they cannot stop what God is doing in your life. They cannot close a door that God has chosen to open. They cannot remove the purpose that God has placed inside your heart. And they cannot take away the peace that God gives to those who trust Him. So instead of focusing on the possibility that someone may be working against you, focus on the greater truth. God is working for you. Every prayer you speak strengthens your spirit. Every moment of faith builds your resilience. Every challenge you overcome prepares you for the future that is unfolding ahead of you. And one day, you may look back on this exact moment with a completely different perspective. You may realize that what once felt like a threat was actually a turning point. A moment when you learned to trust God more deeply. A moment when your faith became stronger. A moment when you discovered that your peace did not depend on the behavior of other people. It depended on your connection with God. And that connection is something no one can take away from you. So as we close this message today, remember this simple truth. You are not alone. Your life is not unprotected. And no hidden intention against you is stronger than the protection that comes from faith. Walk forward with peace. Walk forward with wisdom. And trust that the same God who has carried you through every challenge before will continue guiding your steps in the future. Because what is meant for your life will always find its way to you. If you believe that God can turn any attack into victory, right? God is turning this into my victory. Your words might encourage someone else who is struggling right now. And if this message touched your heart today, I want to leave you with something that may continue strengthening your faith. In the first pinned comment, I shared access to a guide called 10 Powerful Prayers to Defeat Negative Spiritual Forces. Many people keep these prayers close and read them whenever they feel spiritual pressure, negativity, or emotional heaviness around their lives. I decided to make it available only today for those who truly feel they need spiritual support. If you want to receive it, simply click the first pinned comment to rescue your copy. And if you would like to go deeper in prayer and spiritual encouragement, you will also see the option there to become a member of this community, where we share additional prayers, guidance, and messages of faith. Remember, sometimes the right prayer at the right moment can completely change the atmosphere around your life. Stay strong in faith, and may peace guide every step you take.